Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Slate Podcast. My name is Misha Haney, and I'm here with my very good friend Barry Price today. You have seen Barry in many different films, commercials, TV spots, you name it. He's also been in works such as American Miracle, Coach of the Year, Uneven, Worth the Price, and Finding Elise. You've also seen him in works such as Death by Gossip, A Haunting, Homicide Hunter, Fatal Attraction, and Monsters and Mysteries in America. His work has spanned multiple national commercials, spots, training videos, and introductional videos and PSAs. He has also traveled everywhere from Miami, Florida, New York City, California, and even all the way to Saudi Arabia. How are you today, Barry? Welcome on to the show.
I'm honored. I'm grateful. I really am.
Yes, it's a pleasure to have you on the show today, Barry. Okay, so my first question I have for you is how did you get involved in acting to begin with?
I've always been a surfer. I've been a surfer since I was 12 years old, and so I did a couple ads when I was a late teenager. 18, 19, 20, 21. A couple, print ads. I got my picture in, a local magazine, and we finally did a few little maybe videos. I maybe got a clip in a video and things like that, and so that's kind of like how I got started. And I always had kind of like a dream to either be in a band or be some kind of an actor, but I was too shy and I wasn't musically inclined, so I couldn't be in a band. If anything, I could just beat on drums, and that's about it. But it's always been kind of like a secret desire for me to be a kind of an actor, and so surfing kind of started me out in the very, very beginning, believe it or not.
Yeah, I'm always blown away by what a talented surfer you are. I'll make sure to include a lot of pictures and to show on screen for people to see how awesome you are.
Well, at my age.
So I wanted to talk to you some more about what truly inspired you to want to become an actor.
Well, dude, that's a long story, man. It is a long story. Hunger is one of them. Hunger. So I listen. I have a 37-year-old son now. When he was younger, his mom and I split up. So she remarried and went to San Diego. So I moved out to San Diego as well, just to be near him. And I stayed on a friend's floor and couch all winter long. And luckily I got a job in San Diego in La Jolla at a restaurant, and through friends of mine here on the East Coast. And then when the holiday season was over after Christmas and New Year's, it slowed down and they didn't need me anymore. So I was hunting around for jobs all through San Diego, and I kept looking in the newspaper at want ads because there was no cell phones back then. There was no cell phones. Um, there was no Google, anything like that. So you look in the help wanted ads every day. So I kept looking at this help wanted ad for an agency, a talent agency, and I called them up, and because I had no choice. I was like, listen, it said no experience necessary, commercials, print, movies, this and that and that and this, and of course they dangle the carrot in front of you, and so I didn't have anything to lose. So I called that phone number in San Diego, and they allowed me to come meet them, and they kept asking me. They were like, do you think you can? I know I kept asking them, do you think I can do this? And they kept telling me, do you think you can do this? And I said, wow, I've never been asked that before. We want to know if you think you can do this. And I said, well, I have no choice. I'd like to do it because it's a secret desire of mine. And I spent my last $350 on headshots, black and white print headshots. Yeah, and so that's really how it got me started, because I was like, I was like, why don't I call this number and see what happens? So it kind of got me in the doorway, and it got me back here on the East Coast to really pursue it. So that's how I got started, really.
Yeah, and that's why I absolutely love doing this show is I get to hear how everybody got into the entertainment business. My next big question I have to ask you is what does a typical workday look like for you?
Well, I'm actually kind of like I'm kind of like in a a transition right now. I've been in the restaurant business my whole life, and I've done other things on the side too, construction work, Christmas trees, anything I could possibly do. But I was always good at the front of the house restaurant business. And I've been a bartender for 30 some years. And I just left bartending this past June. So that I was working 6 nights a week, no, 5 nights a week and doing brunches on Sunday. So I was doing that for a solid 5 years in this one restaurant that I just left. And then I would help my wife during the daytime. We have our own Airbnb here at our house on the bottom level, and we also have other Airbnbs that we semi-manage and we clean. We clean those as well. So I'm making a transition into just doing that, but it's going into wintertime, and it's really slow right now on the Outer Banks. So it's a little tough. So the acting and the modeling and the stand-in work and some voiceovers and things like that are just like the cherry on top.
Okay, awesome. So, how much do you think percentage wise you're incorporating everything you just said and along with your acting job?
Some years have been better than others. It doesn't increase every year. Sometimes, one year I'll do even more, and the next year I'll do less. But sometimes that overlaps. Like sometimes you will work on a job, say in November or October, and you won't get paid until the next year. You know what I mean? You won't get paid, until 30, 60, 90, maybe 100 days. So that folds over to the next year as far as I'm concerned. But I don't know. It's definitely a cherry on top for me. It's definitely when you get paid to act, it's like, wow, you love doing it, but then when you get paid, you're like, whoa, that's the cherry on top. And I'm like, wow, I want to keep doing that. So it's not half and half. I'd say like a quarter of my income.
Okay, so when you say you get paid at the end of the year, how does that normally work out?
Misha, I'm not in the union. I'm eligible. I'm eligible to be in the union, but I'm not in the union. One day, one day when I get older, I might be in the union, but right now I don't have to be. But I've been blessed to have gotten reuse pay. Reuse pay is the residuals you get when you're in non-union. So there's some clients and companies and whatnot that have wanted to renew the commercial or renew the this or that, and they ask the agent if they can renew it, and the agent can negotiate price, and I've been getting reuse pay for several commercials I've done in the past, and it's such a blessing. So if you're non-union, if you're as lucky as I've been, with the grace of God, you can get reuse pay on some things.
Okay, so that leads me into my next question. Are you getting any royalty checks?
I'm not getting royalty checks. I'm just getting reuse pay on several commercials that I've done. So there's been a commercial that I did no, Occuvite years ago in New York City, and I got paid like 4 different times within like 4 years. So they even ran that. My agent called me up. She's like, "Hey, Occuvite wants to run this commercial in Romania." And she quoted a price. I was like, "That's cool. Yeah, that's great." She's like, "No, no, no, no. They're going to run your image in Romania. We're going to get more money for that." So actually, she got me more money for that. So that was a blessing. So I got paid, you know, checks like for 4 years, like one check for 4 years, and that amount totaled a pretty good payment. And that's just a blessing. Just like you said, we're all on this journey together, but we all have the journey's a little different for each of us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah. My next question I have to ask you is like, when it comes to different roles, so like, do you have any control in trying to select what roles you want to like audition for, or like, do people normally find you and they contact you for stuff?
It's been both. It's been both. I'm on a lot of the acting sites like Actors Access, Casting Networks, Casting Call, things like that. And so I don't have my own website, but I have my profiles, and I pay yearly for each of those sites. So those are my sites, and I have several different agents on those. So every morning when I'm drinking coffee, after I read my Bible and have fellowship, I start on the computer and I look up projects all around the country that fit my age range and my style. Some things, and of course you look at the pay scale. So, for instance, I'm going to put in two auditions, one tomorrow and one Thursday. On Thursday, I'm putting in an audition for Spectrum, and then tomorrow I'm putting in an audition for a hotel in Philly. So, to travel different places, it's got to be worth it. So that's my goal. Is it's definitely being paid is what motivates you, but it also you want the project to fit in with what you're comfortable with and what you like to do.
Yeah. So, how does your wife feel about your acting career?
Yeah, my wife and I have been together 23 years, been married 20 years. Both of them, we both, this is both our second marriages. We don't have any children together. And it's funny because I told her when we met that this is what I do. And there are going to be times where I'm going to be matched up with, a fake wife and this and that. But there's a limit to things that I personally want to do. And, I came home one time and she's like, "Did you work with some beautiful models and actresses today?" And I said, "Well, yeah, but all we did was hold hands." And she was like, "I don't want to hear any details. I just want to, it's a yes or no answer." So I learned early on not to give her any details and I was like, "Baby, just wait for the check. It'll be fine." So, but she's worked on a couple projects with me as my, sidekick or wife, and she just doesn't like to do it. She does not like to be on camera, but she gives me the blessing to do this. She's a pretty modest lady.
So, like, when you receive a script, so like how is your audition process? And so, like, how do you go about like memorizing your dialogue?
Things don't come real easy to me. I know that things would come easy to Robert Shepard or Joel King, God bless his soul, and but for me, it's a lot tougher. I love to read. I love to read. And I just have to read and read and read and read and read over and over and over and over again until it gets into my soul. And a lot of times I write down my lines too. I write them and I write them and I write them over and over and over again. And then when I'm driving, sometimes I'll record the lines and or the other lines of the other characters and read my lines behind them and whatnot. And then a lot of times when I only live a few blocks from the ocean, so I'll take my script to the and walk the beaches, and walking helps me memorize too. I don't know why, but when I walk and read my script and try to memorize my script, that helps me. And also driving. When I'm driving, I turn the music off, I drive, I got the script, either listening to it or somewhat, on the dashboard carefully, and when I drive and when I walk, it helps me memorize scripts easier and also writing them down. But I read and read and read and read all the time. So
That is super different. I've never heard of any actor who's described that process to me yet. My next question is more about kind of taking auditions, doing auditions. So, since you're not part of like a union, so is that drastically different from how Robert was like describing how he gets auditions? So, are you doing most of your auditions through Zoom calls and stuff like that?
yeah, a lot of times you get Zoom callbacks. So I've done a lot of those. But just like Robert said, in the old days when I first started, I'd get an audition down in Wilmington with Fin Cannons, or I'd get an audition in Charlotte with Corrigan and Johnston, and you drive 5 hours or 4 hours. And I've been to Philly at John Lemon's casting as well, and you drive and drive and drive, and you audition, and you're like, that was terrible, and you cry all the way home. But now it's digital, so you can do it from your house. You can do it from your house now, your phone. So, I video here all the time from my house. My wife helps me out, and I send in and upload videos right here from my house. So,
That's awesome. So my next question is going to be kind of like what I asked Robert when he came on the show is how do you handle rejection?
in the old days, it used to be, uh, you know, when I was green and I was younger, and I'd get rejected. I'm like, man, why am I doing this? why am I pursuing this? Because I'm not an educated person. I never was good in school. Why am I doing acting? Why? And but for some reason, it just draws me in. It's drawn me in because I have been successful in auditions. And you're like, sometimes you'll do an audition and you'll go, that's the worst audition I've ever done. And you get the job. And then sometimes you'll go in and audition for something or put a tape in and you're going, that's the best audition I've ever done in my life. And you don't get the job. So as time goes on, you realize you cannot control the audition process. Maybe your eyes were too blue, or maybe your hair was too gray, or maybe you were too tall, or maybe you had too much of a Southern accent, or maybe you just didn't fit in with a spouse or the kid's father, or the father, so things you just can't control in the audition room, and you've learned to realize that you're like, okay, all I got to do is go perform the best audition I can possibly do. And that's what I've learned throughout the years. You just put in the best performance you can and let the process take care of itself. And it used to hurt my feelings not to get the job. And it still does. It still hurts my feelings. But, I've been successful in a lot of auditions. So I know I have it. I know it's there. It's just, you just have to, it's the gambling that you do. And I used to get my feelings hurt, but now it's like, honestly, Misha, I've auditioned so much for things the last couple years, but there's a lot of things that I haven't been picked for, but they just keep coming in. So I'm never giving up. You just don't give up.
So when it comes to you getting roles, do you normally have to be the one that has to put the energy forth to get that part, or do more roles come to you naturally?
Yeah. I research stuff on my sites every day, and a lot of those times, uh, I have included several of my agents on it, even though they didn't get them for me, but I'd still give them a percentage. You know what I mean? And but there have been other clients and or directors that have, or even casting directors that have reached out to me personally and just asked me to audition. So it's a little of both. And then of course your agents are always you know trying to get you jobs, and it sometimes it can be slow, and all of a sudden you know for instance, that commercial I did last spring that's on the air right now on WTKR through Channel 3 with that surfer. It's a PSA for organ donation. Sylvia Hudson contacted me because she's like, oh, Barry's a surfer, let me contact him, and then I actually got the role. So
So do you prefer working on bigger budget projects or smaller projects?
oh, I like both. But Misha, I haven't achieved my goals in the big stuff yet. I mean, I've kind of done bigger things, but not as big as some of my peers. I just haven't reached that goal yet. I mean, there are some big productions that I've worked on, but as extra work and or stand-ins. And um whatever. I love doing the small. You listen. I've always said I'm the king of small stuff. You know what I mean? I'm the king. I'm the king of small stuff only because I get them more. I get roles more in the small stuff. But the big stuff I'm still trying to achieve. I still think there's bigger things for me out there as I get older. And but I'm like the king of commercials. I've done a lot of commercials.
Okay, well, I think you've done some really big stuff. My next question is, what advice would you give to new actors coming into the industry?
Patience. Patience first. You have to be patient. You have to listen. You have to pay attention, and you can't give up. You can't give up. You have to persevere. Um, and I mean, and you got to be able. You got to be tough. You got to take rejection, and you just can't give up.
Since things are so vastly different from when you began your career in around 1998, what has been the biggest change?
For one thing, digital. I mean, like we said before, now you can audition from your house and then upload videos and do videos and upload them and then send them in. and then do callbacks on Zoom. That's the big thing. Let me think. The big change. Oh, headshots went from black and white to color, and it, and then you really don't need it. You really do not need physical headshots anymore. I mean, you do, but and then you staple your resume on the back of them, and you hand them in, you mail them in, and things like that. You really don't have to do that anymore. You just upload into an email.
So, do you think people can take their own headshots with their phone, like taking selfies, or do you think people actually have to get them professionally done?
That's a good question because first part of that question, as far as the selfies go, no, no. The For a headshot, a lot of times they want to. A lot of times, casting or agents or whatever want to see a current selfie of yourself, what you look like right now, because a lot of those times your selfie will look different than your headshot. But you can't. You need to get professional headshots by a professional headshot photographer, not a studio photographer. Let's say at a mall. You know what I mean? You don't want to do the glamour shots. You want to hire a professional headshot photographer who's done headshots for other actors. Hey, I've been guilty of this before. I've even had gone in and had headshots by professional photographers, whereas they wanted to put a bunch of makeup on you. Let's put you with makeup on and this and that, and that didn't work for me. Whereas the glamour shots, they want to tease your hair up, they want to put makeup on your face. Hey, let's get rid of those wrinkles. That's this and that. Whereas now it's like I'm not maybe a little bit of powder, but that's it. But they want to see your wrinkles. They want to see the wrinkles around your smile, their wrinkle, your crow's feet. They want to see the natural you. And so I think that's the difference between regular headshots and glamour headshots. It's not about the makeup. It's about looking like who you look like. They don't want to meet you in person. All of a sudden they're like, you don't look like your photo. The photo's all made up.
Okay. Well, yeah, and that's super interesting. Like I never thought about it that way, and so that makes complete sense. So like how often do you have to like update those since again you just said that they want to see how you look like now?
It's at my age, I kind of look like I do. I look the same as I've looked in the last 3 or 4 years, but my hair is longer and I have a beard right now too. As I'm getting older, I keep my beard more, but anybody who's younger, especially when you're a kid, a young child or a young teenager that grows fast, they need to get their headshots done maybe once a year because they have growth spurts, and they got to keep up with their growth as far as the photos go. But listen, I'm in. Probably for me right now, I'm 62 years old. I probably need to get headshots done every couple of years, maybe 3 years. I'm due for new headshots.
Well, that's super interesting, Barry, and that's really good to know. My next question is going to be something quite personal. We talked about this before, but you mentioned to me that you grew up being shy and you had some very brief, like, uh, learning challenges growing up. Can you go into a bit more detail and talk about that, please?
Yeah, Misha, I don't know, man. I have four siblings, two older sisters, an older brother, and a younger brother. I'm the middle brother. Uh, Father was in Vietnam. He was a disabled Vietnam veteran, so he probably had undiagnosed PTSD back then. And so for some reason, I was just a shy kid. I always liked to read, but when I was younger, I had a hard time focusing on reading. I could read a book, but still not know what it meant. but so I was a tough study, man. For some reason school came hard to me at a young age. There was, I was good at art. I was good at things like that. I was good on the playground. I like to read. I wasn't very good at math, even though I can balance my checkbook now. I had a hard time focusing. My younger brother was diagnosed as being hyperactive, so he had to be on Ritalin. I don't know what happened to me, man. I got lost in the shuffle. So I don't know, man. I didn't do well in school. I barely got through every grade. I did graduate high school. I went to summer school twice, once in elementary school, once in junior high. And I just had a hard time focusing, man. I just couldn't. I barely got through high school. Um, I think my handwriting and my storytelling kind of helped me in English class, and I always loved history, but everything else was hard for me, man. It was tough, but I always liked to work. I always liked to work. I started working young, so when I became a junior and senior in high school, I did the Vika program where I would go to school half a day and go to work the next half a day. So those are the things that got me through school. And I never went to college. I tried community college for one semester, and it just wasn't for me.
And yeah, that's a super interesting point to bring up too, because I wasn't very good in school and it just wasn't for me either. Well, my next question has to do with the fact that you've traveled all over the world, Barry. You've traveled from Florida all the way to New York and all the way to California and even to Saudi Arabia. Can you talk to us a bit about your travels?
Yes. Well, I'm going to start with my state, the state of North Carolina. I've been up and down the state working in the past, and also Virginia. Virginia's been good to me, really good to me. It's branched out to New York City for commercials, and it's branched all the way up to Buffalo, New York. I did a commercial in Buffalo, New York. One time, what the pay wasn't great, but I got the audition and I went for it. And my wife and I drove up there. It was cool place, man. It was a beautiful place. And then Knoxville, Tennessee. I've been out there. I've been to Missouri for a casino shoot out in Missouri. And then California. I've done a commercial in San Diego and Florida, down in Miami. I've done a few things down in Florida, Southern North Carolina, Georgia, Savannah, Georgia. But you know what? It's weird. I haven't gotten any jobs in Atlanta. I've done Savannah, but not Atlanta. Um, and then where else have I been? New Jersey, yeah, Pennsylvania, Maryland, Delaware. I've done all those states, and then Saudi Arabia. Yep, went out to Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, and did a investment, tourism, and business shoot out there.
Great. Yeah. I think my next question is like, so have there ever been times where people help comp you for some of that stuff?
Yeah, definitely the Saudi Arabia one for sure. They paid for everything.
Okay.
Thank God, and the pay was very, very decent too. I got that through a mutual friend of mine,
Mm-hmm.
and then I included one of my agents on that. So, uh, and then yeah, so you know what you asked me earlier, what's the difference between now and back then? Is you know what social media,
Yeah.
social media has helped me. Social, Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn have all helped me in my acting career.
So my next question is like, you know how this business is. It's very competitive and there's a lot of uncertainty sometimes. How do you stay grounded?
I've just learned that I'm me. There's nobody out there like me. I'm me. There is competition, and you realize that there is competition, um, but you can't compete with somebody who's 5 or 10 or 15 years younger than you, or 10 or 15 years older than you. There's an age range, that you're in, and that's where you focus. It's like I can't. You got it. You do compare yourself, but you can't let the comparison drive you crazy. You know what I mean? You just focus on yourself, focus on your abilities and the best that you can do. And because there's nobody out there like you. You know what I mean? You're unique. God's given you this unique your unique self, and that's what you use. You just use yourself, and just don't give up. You just don't give up. You just keep trugging along.
Yeah, I 100% agree. You can't give up in this business. I've been working this type of job, working freelance work and doing odd jobs pretty much my whole life. This is my normal. I can't get used to doing a 9 to 5. It's just not who I am. It's not in my DNA. It's actually very hard for me to transition back over to that. So, for people who are used to a 9 to 5 trying to transition over to this type of lifestyle, it's going to require a lot of faith to believe in yourself and to just not give up.
Yeah, and I do want to give credit to God. My Lord Jesus Christ is helped me. I just want Him to use my talents in the right way. You know what I mean? I just want to use my talents in the correct way. Um, when I was younger, when I first started, I had to turn down a lot of things like auditions and roles that I got because my son was young, and I had to take care of him. He would come stay with me in the summers, and so I had to turn down a lot of things in this business because I had to take care of him, and I couldn't get off of work and things like that. Now that I'm older and he's grown up, I have a lot more flexibility now, and I'm a lot more free to be able to do this now than I was before. So it's kind of, as I get older, God's starting to giving me the dreams of my desires. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and so you mentioned that you've learned a lot through like watching films, documentaries, and stuff, and you've also mentioned that you enjoy performances and you enjoy parts and roles that have a real depth to them that feel real, like you're more geared towards things that feel grounded and based in reality versus things that aren't. Um, I guess my next question is like, just that if you had to choose any role, like I'm just saying, like let's just say that God gave you the choice to pick any part for a character that you wanted to do, what would that be like?
Um, it um I'm a big fan right now of the Chosen series, and I'm a big fan of House of David and things like that. So I I would love to get into roles like that as far as spiritual roles and things like that. But then again, I love war movies. I love real war movies. I love real like movies about history, like Civil War or Revolutionary War, things like that. I like movies about westerns. Just real stuff. But don't get me wrong. I don't. I still like Batman. I still like Superman. I still like sci-fi. Sci-fi might be my least favorite genre, but because I like movies that are told about real people, real stories, real history, even going back to biblical times and things like that. I like hero movies. I like just like Robert Shepard. He said, I remember he said, I don't get to play a bad guy very often, and I'm the same way. I can relate to that. I'm always the lawyer or the father or the grandfather or the doctor or this and that. I've only been like a bad guy once or twice.
My next question has to pertain to what are some of your proudest accomplishments that you've achieved as an actor so far?
Well, I am proud of all the commercials that I've done.
Mm-hmm.
Misha, when I was younger, when I started in this business, as I was an extra and things like that, and my goal was to get speaking roles. And when I first started getting speaking roles, that was a huge accomplishment in my life because I had a hard time speaking. I kind of embarrassed myself on set a couple times. I learned my lesson. The agents and the casting directors and the directors gave me a second chance. Thank God. And I'm proud that I'm able to do speaking roles now. It took me a long time to do that, man. It was tough for me. It was because it's just so shy. I was so shy, and but then I've learned to put those blinders on. It's like you get to set, focus on your character, be that guy, be those lines, be what, and just don't worry about the guy behind the camera. Don't worry about the lighting guys. Don't worry about the sound guy. Stop worrying about everybody else. And that's what I've learned. So Death by Gospel was one of the best roles I ever did, even though that show got canceled. I played a bad guy, and there was a speaking role, and it was just an amazing shoot, man. And then I did you know that I did Nights in Rodanthe back in 2007? I was Richard Gere's stand-in and double. That was huge for me. That was in 2007, and I learned so much on that set. And it wasn't easy, and it wasn't glamorous. Uh, and so that was a big point in my life. That was one of the most best things I've ever done was that. And I learned a lot on that. And some of the commercials I've done, the Saudi Arabia thing was great, even though it was no lines. It was just all, acting stuff. But Joe Kenda, Homicide Hunter with Joe Kenda was a fun role. I played on that. Um, and I did extra work on George Clooney's movie Leatherheads, and just to see him work as a director and actor was blew my mind. That guy was so cool.
But my next question is a bit technical. So, like, when you're talking about being a stand-in, so the first part of this is that can you describe to people who don't know what a stand-in is? And part number two, how do you go about trying to hit your marks?
Okay, so a stand-in is are for big actors. Let's use Richard Gere as an example. Richard Gere, he's got to learn his lines, and he's got to learn the character and be in the character. Whereas, so while they're setting up the scene, let's say we're doing a scene in the kitchen with Diane Lane, they need the crew, the cameramen need somebody to be in there to stand in to get the focus correct, the lighting correct, the sound correct, the movement correct, the marks and all that stuff. And that's where stand-ins are hired to stand in for the main characters, the main actors and actresses. And because they don't have time to sit in front of the camera long hours, because they need to go learn their lines. They need to get ready for the scene. And so film sets hire stand-ins to stand in for the big actors and actresses to get on their marks, to get the lighting correct, to get the sound correct, and get the movement correct. You always got to know where the camera is. This is the one thing that I was green at when I first started. I was like, okay. One time I was put my back to the camera. I'm like, and they had to redirect me. It's like, hey, back to the camera. We need to see your face. So those are the things that I've learned. You got to learn how to speak, and you got to learn how to move at the same time. It's definitely choreography. It's art. It's art. It really is art. You gotta have the coordination to speak and to find your marks and your places correctly. And it's challenging, but when you do it, it's very rewarding.
So, at the end of the day, what do you think defines success for you?
Um, there's always an inkling of actors or models or whoever that they want to be um what am I getting at? They want to be a star. um there's always that inner desire, but for me, I don't want to be a star. I just want to work because I like it. I like this. And to get paid even makes it better. And if fame to be famous or a star, if that comes later because of that, so be it. But I don't strive to be famous. I don't want to be famous. I'm a very public person, but I'm a very private person as well. So I just want to work, Misha. I just want to work. I want to use my talents. I want God to use my talents in the right way. Some people want to do this for stardom. I don't think that's right. I think stardom will come, and being famous might come as a result. But for me, I don't want to be famous. I just want to work, and I want to get paid a little bit.
Yeah, yeah, and I think that's a good point to bring up, and just that and I've seen the whole gamut of different people. Some people do it to for the fame, and some people are like you, and some people want to do it because they enjoy doing the craft, and that's a very honorable thing, and I think that's a very important thing for people to always remember too. So I'm before I get into talking about your favorite actors and stuff like that, there's one more technical question that I just need to toss in here. Can you tell us about some of your longest days on set and what that was like?
Well, yeah, when I did the stand-in work for on Nights in Rodanthe for Richard Gere, those were long hours. when I first sent in my headshot for that and my resume, and they called me, they said, "This summer, can you be available for 3 months?" And I was like, "Maybe." And so they gave me the lowdown, and I was like, "Yes, I can be available for 3 months." So I worked on that set for 3 months, and sometimes 12 hours, 12 hours, 12 hours on set, and so that was one. And then, some of the documentaries at New Dominion Pictures and or M2 Pictures and places like that, those were long hours too. And but you know, before cell phones, you'd go on set with a book. You'd read a book in between. You'd wait and wait and wait and wait, and you'd eat craft services before you went on. And but to me, that's fascinating. Some people don't have patience to wait around, but to me, it's fascinating. You talk to the other actors. You see the director run around. You see the star. The main characters, and it's just fascinating to me. So some of the documentaries were long, and even some of the commercials I did were long, like that Occupy commercial in New York City. It was in February, and I had to wear a T-shirt in Brooklyn, looking across the river, and so it was 20 degrees, and I'm in a T-shirt, shivering. They're like, "Try not to shiver," and I'm like, "I'm trying," and those were long days too. But it's fascinating to me. I love it. I love it. You got to have thick skin to wait around. You have to be patient. There are long hours, but then there's some shoots you go in and everything's ahead of schedule, ahead of schedule, ahead of schedule, and they're like, "Okay, that's a wrap. We're done." We're like, "Whoa, that was quick." So some things are different than others.
And I'm really glad that that was kind of like one of my last big talking points. Is I think that's so good for people to understand is that, um, and just that, especially I've seen that all the time where people have gone to different shoots and they're like trying to wear outfits that will adjust for a different climate, and yeah, sometimes doing this is hard, and sometimes there's a bit of pain in kind of doing that, but it's like you said, what I've always loved about this industry is just like what you said. There's this huge magic part of it behind it. Just that I just love how this whole industry. It just there's just so much appeal to it.
Well, it's almost like cooking. I like my wife and I home cook, and it's like cooking. There's so much preparation going in cooking to do a meal. All this preparation, chopping the vegetables, getting the meat ready or whatnot, and then the final outcome is you get to sit down and eat it and enjoy it, and it goes by kind of fast.
hmm So I want to talk about your top five favorite actors and your top five favorite films now. So I know you wrote down a list. Can you go through all that here for
Yeah.
us?
All right. Yeah. Okay. I got the list in front of me. So number one, Clint Eastwood. God bless his soul. He's getting old, man. But I just love him. I've always loved Clint Eastwood. Ever since my parents allowed me to watch The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, it just blew my mind from a young age. And he's his character was like a good guy, but he was a bad guy at the same time. He's putting Tico in the noose, and he's shooting the noose out to get the money like three or four times in the movie. And at the end of the movie, plus it's a Civil War theme. Part of it is a Civil War theme, which just blew my mind because I've always loved the Civil War. And at the end, he puts Tico in the noose, and he shoots the other bad guy, and the money's buried in the grave, and Tico's up on and in the noose with his feet on the cross, looking at the treasure, and Clint Eastwood's character rides away, and then he shoots him from a distance. He shoots the noose from a distance, and Tico falls into the money. But to me, that movie just blows my mind. I love it.
And that seems to be your go-to. Like me, you seem to really enjoy older classic movies, which is great.
Yeah, because I'm old school, man. And you know what? That's carried on from my father to me, and it's my son loves it too. My 37-year-old son loves the same movies I love.
Oh man, that's great to hear.
But he's new school too, so.
Yeah, yeah, and just that I want to kind of add this question in here because it just popped up in my head. How do you feel about like modern day films? Like, I'm just very interested to hear your take on that.
Well, my wife and I, we nowadays there's a lot of series, and in the old days it was miniseries, but now there's a lot of series. Her and I, we don't like series as much as we like movies because we don't want to stay up all night. You got to turn the TV off eventually, but we don't get me wrong, we like series, but we like movies even better. Yeah, I do like new school movies for sure. Yeah, yeah. I just for some reason my when you ask me my favorite movies, I was drawn more to the older ones because they're more embedded in my brain. So, but I gave you one of the new school movies, the fifth one. We'll start from my first and go to the fifth. Leonardo DiCaprio and Brad Pitt and Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. That movie is unbelievable. God, I love that movie. And that's only a few years old, but that I like movies like that, like Pulp Fiction and all the Tarantino movies are excellent. As far as new school goes.
I was watching all of the behind the scenes of how they were doing Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and like it is absolutely amazing the amount of detail they made to put it into like all the set design and
Yeah.
like with like all the old cars, and like I was surprised to know a lot of it was like CG too, which I couldn't tell, and
Uh,
so I was very like blown away by that too. So can you tell us about the next actor on your list?
Robert Redford. Yeah, Robert Redford's always been one of my favorite actors. And I bring up Jeremiah Johnson because I think it's based on a true story, really. And but it just goes through so many different, he grew up in this, in the, I don't, he may have been in the war. Yeah, he was in the Civil War and seen the war, and he wanted to get away from civilization and see the mountains. So he went up to the Rockies and just had he was green as a greenhorn and had to learn things through trial and error and also through characters he met along the way and the Indians and things like that. And he was a survivor. With the movie and his acting and the characters and just the setting and things like that, it just I don't know. It almost puts you to tears in some way at the end. So that's just one of my favorites. Plus Robert Redford was a good looking man too.
Oh
So
yeah, totally, totally, totally.
God bless his soul.
Mm-hmm. Your next movie was with Tom Hanks, and can you talk to us a bit about that, please?
Well, yeah, Tom Hanks is one of my favorite actors, and I love most of his movies. But The Road to Perdition, actually, I spelled it wrong when I sent it to you. Road to Perdition is an unbelievable movie, and Paul Newman's in that movie too, as an old man. And Tom Hanks is an Irish bad guy. He works for a bad guy, Paul Newman, kind of like the Irish mob back in the I don't know, maybe it was in the 20s. But Tom Hanks plays a hitman, a bad guy, and um, Paul Newman's son is evil and corrupt, and Tom Hanks gets revenge, and Tom Hanks's younger son and his wife get killed in it, and his older son, who he was very hard on. There's a tender moment in that movie where Tom Hanks takes his older son on the road with him to run, and there's a tender moment in that movie where Tom Hanks and his older son come together in love. And Tom's just telling him, "Hey, look, you're too much like me. You're not like your younger brother. You're too much like me, and I don't want you to be like me."
All right, can you tell us about your next pick for Guy Pearce?
Guy Pearce, yeah, and for some reason, I'm just drawn to that guy. I'm just drawn to that actor, man.
Mm-hmm.
He's a little Australian dude, and but he's just so underground. He's not like in the Hollywood elite per se. I think he's just a huge actor, and he's a great actor, but he's just underground. The Count of Monte Cristo, if I'm saying that correct, is one of my favorite movies that he's in. He plays the bad guy, but Guy Pearce played the bad guy. And I read the book, The Count of Monte Cristo, when I was younger. But Guy Pearce in that movie is unbelievable. It's just such a great story.
So yeah, that pretty much will wrap things up here today, Barry. I'm so glad to just have you on the show, and it just meant so much to me, and I had such a wonderful time sitting down and talking to you, sir.
Thank you, Misha. This has been a great pleasure, man. I mean, I was a little nervous and anxious in the beginning too. Now I want to keep on going. But dude, I'm very honored to be a part of your show, and it means a lot to me. And I hope this helps you, and I hope it helps me. And I just want to give thanks to God for our friendship, and I'm proud of you, man. Thank you for including me on this. Thank you, thank you, thank you.